Want to skip the small talk and get into the heart of it? So do we. Life isn't about perfection, it's about connection. And together, we're building healthy relationships, one conversation at a time. This is Say It Here.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Say It Here. This episode is very exciting. My name is Judi Franco.
And I'm Corie Adjmi.
Corie and I are lifelong friends, and we decided that we wanted to do something together that would really matter. And so ever since we've been talking about saying it here, we've been attracting a lot of people who feel like they needed to get stuff off their chests, fish elbi, as we call it in Arabic. And we certainly urge people who are listening right now, if they are struggling with any kind of stress, to get it off their chest and say it here. We've had so many unbelievable guests. I have to give that to my friend Corie, who is not only an author, but a Manhattan bon vivant. And all right, maybe not bon vivant. I might be exaggerating a little bit.
Carried away.
But Corie just knows everybody. And I've learned so much from doing this with you, Corie, because let's face it, I talk, you write. It's a completely different form of expression. I'm not used to reading as much as you do, but I'm very excited for today's guest because we come from the same kind of world. And so when we talk about some of the tough stuff that we focus on here on Say It Here, I rarely, or so far we have not come across people who have been in the spotlight as much as our guest has. And living under that kind of a microscope makes it really difficult to deal with, just in a different way, to deal with our issues, our problems. He actually is somebody who's a good friend, a friend of our families. So I feel like it's going to mean even more to finally talk to him about this stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Craig Carton. I mean, he's no introduction, but Craig, if you wouldn't mind, just for the 4 people listening who've never heard your name, give us your bio, quick 1-minute bio.
So we've spoken Arabic, French, and English thus far on this highbrow podcast of yours, both of you.
Exactly.
Extremely.
I'm not sure if my street language is going to make the cut, but
we'll accept whatever it is you have to say. I mean, the rest of the world does, so I guess we will too.
yeah. No, I've been in sports talk radio or just general talk radio for 34 years, in TV as well for Fox Sports. And I'm just a regular guy who got very lucky to make it to the height of his chosen profession and then decided to throw it all away and then try to rebuild a life literally from ground zero. And that's what I'm still in the middle of doing. But my story, somewhat sadly, played out very publicly. So all my warts were exposed. The only good side of that is as you start rebuilding your life, or as I've rebuilt my life and been blessed to have some success career-wise, that's public, the good stuff also plays out publicly too. So it's a double-edged sword, not always good, not always bad. And I've certainly experienced the highs and lows of both.
Craig, the first question that comes to me, and it's funny because it's probably not something that I've ever asked you before, but well, first of all, let me just ask you this, because this is, I think, is even more important.
Why am I walking outside and not giving you the respect you deserve by sitting in front of a laptop?
I would never
Fair
ask
question.
that. I know you for too long, Craig.
I
know the
actually
answer.
like it a lot. You're working on your mental health.
So I go for about a 5 or 6 mile walk every day, usually with my dog. And what you just said, Corie, is right. It kind of gives me a reset on the day, a reset mentally, emotionally. Not that I talk to myself out loud, I don't, but I just feel better after the walk. Not quite sure why that is, but it works for me.
I do the same.
So then why would you even want to be here today? That's the first question. The minute I asked you, would you appear on our podcast, you were like 100%. And you don't say yes to a lot of things I ask.
Yeah.
In fact, you rarely even return my phone calls. So why?
Yeah, well, let me be fair and clear. I don't want to do this today, but I had a choice to make. I think telling my story helps other people, which is why I tell my story in so many places to so many different people. Mm-hmm. And if I had said no or ignored you, it would have meant that you would have called me again. So I had to make a life choice. Either text messages and calls over and over again, and then invitations to Sabbath dinner, or just give you 35 minutes and call it a day.
Smart man.
Let me just tell you something. The Sabbath dinner doesn't work out too bad for you, though, does it, Craig? Come on.
It works out great when you buy, wherever you buy that challah from, it's always awesome.
I'm going to kill him.
And I can only have so much of your son-in-law's chicken. It'd be nice if once in a while there was like a second option.
I'm seriously going to kill him. And I warned Corie about this, but this is what you got to do.
Coconut crusted chicken again. Woo!
Corie, should we hang up on him now? Okay.
No, I'm thinking I should invite him to my house.
What do you serve for dinner?
I serve some different things.
I'm in.
Let me tell you something.
No, but I do think, to answer your question, it's a fair question. Look, I'm in a unique position because my stuff, played out publicly, and because, gambling specifically played out and is becoming a bit of, I hate using the word epidemic, but it's getting there. If I can share my story and it helps somebody avoid similar things that I experience, then, I'll talk to everybody about it.
Okay. So can I ask a question?
Please.
Yeah.
I don't have any desire to gamble. Like, it's something I don't relate to at all. So can you explain? I would love to know how it happened. How did you fall into this? What was the high? What was the reason to go back and do it again and again?
So I've kind of lived multiple lives in the world of gambling. I, like the far majority of people, was able to gamble responsibly, recreationally, wasn't a problem. And I've kind of been, infatuated with and interested in gambling literally since I'm in first grade, so 8 years old. Gambling's been a part of my life in some capacity. It started off with the video game and television, the console and television, back in like 1980 or thereabouts. And that game came with a built-in casino game. I ran a casino out of my parents' living room when I was 9 years old. I owned an offshore casino in my 20s. So I worked at Yonkers Raceway, my first internship ever during college. I've always been enthralled by the gambling industry. It didn't become a problem for me until much later in life when I had the opportunity to start gambling significant sums of money. And with that, my ego grew out of control. Gambling is an egotistical addiction.
Why do you say that?
Well, there's the belief that you're never going to lose. There's the belief that I'm better than everybody else who's playing cards. The casinos aren't going to hold me down. And when you have significant wins like I did, it fosters the belief that I'm untouchable. And for about 18 months of my life, I would tell you I was the greatest card player on the planet. $1 million wins, $1 million losses to go with it. But I found myself in a position where, unfortunately, I lost total sight of the value of money. The amounts of money no longer mattered to me. And I don't know exactly when that happened, other than 2016, 2017, but I just then needed to gamble. And however I could gamble, whatever the amounts were, it didn't matter. I just had to play because when I was playing, I felt safe and protected. I felt like I was in this little cocoon where the world couldn't bother me. Any problems I had were pushed to the side. And for a guy that doesn't focus well, when I was sitting at a table by myself, because I only played alone, with 6 decks of cards in front of me and a dealer, I just felt good.
What's that feeling of safety? What is that? How is it? Because I would imagine dopamine.
Yeah, well, it's a big dopamine rush for sure.
Yeah.
But I want to I'll get to that in a second. It's like people sometimes think the compulsive gambler's the loudmouth guy at the craps table who's yelling and screaming and cursing and high-fiving everybody. It's the exact opposite. Compulsive gamblers have become loners. It's not a social disease. It's the exact opposite of it. And for me, the dopamine rush, or to answer your question, I can't say specifically what I was hiding from or what I was avoiding in life, other than the same problems everyone has, married, 4 kids, job, all that stuff, mortgage payments. But I just know that the way I once described it, it's hard if you've never had an addiction or lived this. When I would get to the Egg Harbor Township toll on the AC Expressway, making me about 20 minutes away from the casinos in Atlantic City, I felt a tangible rush come over my body. When I walked into a casino, my heart rate changed. I was flush. I walked faster. And these are all your visceral reactions before I even made the bet. And I got to a stage where I wanted to just maximize how much I was betting from not a value standpoint, but a quantity standpoint, that because I was gambling so much money, I could make a lot of the rules up at every casino. So if you go to a casino today to play blackjack, you're playing under different rules that I'm playing. I can even the playing field to about 50-50 by asking for certain things that you can't get. And what I found was that fed my ego. That made me want to do it more and more. Winning is certainly a part of it. I think if I had lost a lot early on, I might not have gone down the same road, but I didn't. I won early. And then sitting there, it was very easy for me to focus like I was on Ritalin, but I wasn't. I'm all over the place mentally and nonstop, like ADD type of brain. But when I sat down at the blackjack table, I'm a mathematical brain and I'm really good with numbers. And the focus on the numbers and the cards just made me feel right.
Did being famous allow you those privileges, or was it just being a big gambler that allowed you those privileges?
No, the fame actually, in the big picture, is negative because I was hiding from people. If I'm out there gambling and my mortgage is on the table in front of me in chip value, that was embarrassing to me. I didn't want people to know how much I gambled. I did not want attention for it. What fame did allow me to do was sweet talk my way into higher limits than I deserved, more credit/markers than I deserved, because they knew who I was. There was a casino in Atlantic City that allowed me to wager 5 hands at $25,000 a hand. That's $125,000 at one time. And my income, as much as I was doing very well, didn't deserve it. But I always paid the debt if I lost. So I have a track record of paying the debt off. And because I'm quote unquote famous, they were never worried of where I was going to go. I wasn't going to disappear. Exactly where I was at 6 o'clock in the morning every weekday because you could turn on your television or radio and hear or see me.
Of course, this begs the obvious question. What was the moment? What was the specific moment?
That what?
Where you said, this is too much. I need help.
Oh, I never really did. I would still be gambling today if I hadn't been arrested, if I hadn't lost my freedom and gone to prison.
There were stories about you in papers that the Athens, Corie, did you see the one that Courtney sent us?
Mm-hmm.
Why is Craig being talked about in Ohio? And I know that you were nationally known, but I guess the story was just, aren't there a zillion compulsive gamblers in the world? The story was just so amazing. Corie, there was an HBO special that he did. I know you don't mind my talking about this, Craig. He told stories that you have never heard. You've never heard stories like this. I mean, it was just amazing. So anyway, Craig goes to jail. Tell the story, Craig. Sorry.
No, so I'm gambling out of control. It becomes all consuming. And when you're an all consumed compulsive gambler, you spend literally 24/7, thinking about money. Where are you getting money from? Who do you owe money to? Who owes you money? When can I gamble? Where can I gamble? I played in almost every underground poker game that exists in Manhattan. I sadly quite famously, I've told this story before, I worked from 6 to 10 in the morning. I lived in New York City. My apartment was 5 blocks from the radio station. I had a driver and a sprinter, which I didn't need either of because I lived in New York City. I was going 5 blocks to work. And one day I had him come pick me up at midnight, drive me to the Poconos, and I played blackjack for 7 minutes. Won a bunch of money, got back in the sprinter, drove back to New York City to do the most listened to sports talk show in America. Literally played for 7 minutes. That's how strong the pull was where I had to wager.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell the helicopter story because, if you don't mind my saying, I almost didn't believe that story.
Sadly, there's a lot of helicopter stories. Which one are you referring to?
Oh, God. Okay. In general, he would be picked up from the top of the building.
So what I did was, look, when you're gambling at the level I was gambling, millions of dollars, everything is afforded to you. The only thing I ever took advantage of was transportation to and from the casino so I could get there faster to gamble more, and a nice room if I was bringing friends or family to stay overnight. I didn't take advantage of anything else offered, and you'll trust me, everything is being offered. I just wanted to get there, play as much as possible, set the rules for my table, have 10 tables reserved if I wanted them, and give my friends a nice place to stay for the weekend. Period, stop. So that involved a lot of helicopters, a lot of private jets to go to places. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, there's a helipad on the top of the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City. So if I'm taking a helicopter, there's 3 places to land. You can land at Atlantic City International and then drive from there to the casino. You can land with permission on the roof of the Golden Nugget, or you could land across the street on the boardwalk where there's like a little, like, what is it
The
called?
Steel
Like,
Pier.
yeah, the Steel Pier, right? Where they do like helicopter tours.
Mhm.
I've landed all those places. So I would have to get permission from the Golden Nugget to land a helicopter on their roof. Then if I was going to gamble there, which was rare, I'd just go gamble. If not, I'd have the Borgata waiting downstairs in a limousine to pick me up from the Nugget, drive me over to gamble, and then bring me back to leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
And there was
And that was the thing.
nobody had an inkling.
In my world, so everyone in my world, family to coworkers, were well aware that I liked to gamble. They also were well aware that I liked to do magic tricks. So I once bought 500 decks of cards off Amazon, and there was a good 1.5 year period where if you saw me in a restaurant, I had a deck of cards in my back pocket. If you saw me buying ice cream, deck of cards. I did not leave my house without multiple decks of cards on my person. And it became the only thing that mattered in my life. It was the most important thing to me. At one point, at the height of our success at WFAN in New York on the radio, I went to my wife and said, I'm thinking about retiring. She said, retiring? Like, from what? To do what? I said, I think I'm going to become a professional blackjack player. And you could imagine how that comment was met.
Yeah, that went over big.
Yeah. So that's how I was being crazy, but it was all fed by my ego. And that's the reality of being a compulsive gambler.
Is there any situation, Craig, obviously we have 1,000 questions, but
Yeah.
it's hard for me to ask questions about your family because
you know them.
I know them and I love them, but there's one specific story that I think needs to be told. When I asked you, was there a line, was there a moment? And you said, no, if I hadn't gotten arrested, I never would have stopped. But you told a story about your son after he came back from summer vacation.
Yeah. That's not why I stopped, though. That should have been.
I know. How could that not be?
Right. Well, because I'm an addict. So the story is that I made sure that any vacation we took in about a 2 or so year span, it was casino related. And the way I always explained it to my wife and to my family, yeah, but we're going to fly in a private jet. Or, hey, they're giving us great rooms. Or, hey, the vacation doesn't cost us anything. I just have to play blackjack for a couple hours and the whole vacation's covered. And it's why I always say that gambling is not 100% negative as I look back on it, because I also had some amazing life experiences with my family that otherwise would not have happened.
Craig, I wouldn't have seen that suite in one of the hotels in Atlantic City.
Right.
That was the length of the entire hotel.
Right. Like Mark and Judi were coming there. They didn't like their room. I got them a better room because the casino wanted me to gamble. So they'll do anything you want for them. So it didn't cost me anything and they got a nice room. So it was great. Win-win. Win-win.
And he used to say, you used to tell me, spend.
Yeah, buy whatever you want. Nothing costs me any money here because I'm willing to lose millions of dollars. So one summer we'd gone to, I guess, Atlantis or somewhere with a casino. And my son was in first grade at the time. So the teacher has all the kids in first grade draw pictures with crayons of their best memories from the summer. So my son, who's now 14, drew a picture of a casino and said, that was my favorite memory of the summer with my dad, was going to a casino. Now, if you're a rationally thinking person, that might be a light bulb that should go off in your brain to tell you, A, what are you thinking? B, why are you exposing your child at 7, 8 years old to that? And C, time for a wake-up call. Well, I did none of that. I knew it was weird. I processed that that's not a normal experience for a first grader, but I didn't do anything to stop it. As many times as I might have even looked in the mirror saying, hey, come on, man, you're better than this. You know better than this. I still kept on doing it because I'd gotten to a point where it's all that mattered to me.
Craig, can you tell us a little bit about what recovery looked like? Because this sounds like super stressful to me.
I think most addictions have a great amount of commonality, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or in this case, gambling. I think there's a lot of similarities that all of us have. I think recovery is very unique. So for me, again, I didn't start the process of getting help or getting healthy until after I had been arrested. And long story short about that, I was a serial entrepreneur. I was making a lot of money, so I had extra money to spend on different harebrained ideas I had. And at one point, I think I had 6 companies all at the same time. For example, I was the exclusive jewelry designer and manufacturer for Fredericks of Hollywood. I had the rights to deal with the estate of Muhammad Ali for cufflinks, pendants, and necklaces. I owned the rights to every North American sports franchise and player for Band-Aids. Anything I thought was a good idea, I funded. So now I'm taking financial risks outside of, blackjack table. And then when you're looking for significant sums of money to gamble with, it stands to reason that at some point you're going to be involved with bad people, because I don't know good people that are willing to meet me on a street corner in New York City and give me a duffel bag with $1 million in cash in it. And I did that. So I'm willing to take risks. I'm a gambler. I'm funding all these different businesses. And then I get approached by someone for another business. I'm letting into all the details of it. He was a bad person, was doing bad things. I had no problem going right along, being in business with him. Unbeknownst to me, he was doing bad things behind my back, and I got caught up in it. And some of it was because I was using money for one thing to gamble with, which apparently you can't do legally, even though I thought as long as I used my credit card to do everything I said I was going to do financially, I didn't hurt anybody. Why have I broken the law? I could possibly still argue that, but I made mistakes, broke the law, got arrested, got sentenced, and spent a year of my life in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania in prison. And then a year after that in halfway houses in both New York and New Jersey, and house arrest. And then a year after that on probation, and had to suffer the indignity of wearing an ankle monitor and all the things that come along with being not just accused, but convicted of a felony. So, but when I got arrested, obviously I had this come to Jesus kind of moment where I better go get some help for this if it's real. And I was in denial that I had a problem. So I decided to go to rehab out in Prescott, Arizona, at a place called Adjmi. At the time when I got in trouble, believe it or not, there are only 3 facilities in the country that specialize in gambling addiction. Adjmi in Arizona. Yep.
That's
one
shocking.
in Minnesota and one in West Virginia. There's some more now, but not a lot. So I go out there and I'm still in denial. I still think my poop doesn't stink because I'm the guy wagering millions of dollars. No one else in this room for sure had done that. So I'm better than everybody else. And they went around the room for each person, about a dozen people, men and women. To be fair, and I don't think this was sexist. I wasn't thinking this way. It never dawned on me that women would be gambling addicts. And yet they're in the room with 3 or 4 women with gambling problems. So that was a light bulb moment for me as well. And then they go around the room and it was as if each person had read a script that I had written about how I processed gambling mentally and emotionally, had copied it down verbatim and just regurgitated it back to me. And one of the guys from Oklahoma, his addiction was dollar scratch-offs. Now I'm betting millions of dollars. He's betting dollar scratch-offs with his paycheck every Friday, and yet he processed it exactly the same way I did. And I said to him at one point, over the 2 weeks I was there, when did you know you had a problem and what led you to rehab? And he said, when you do the scratch-offs, the little silver filament that comes off the scratch-off ticket, you guys familiar with that?
Of course. It's all over the car.
Right? Yeah. Right. Well, he said, I did what I normally do. I spent my entire paycheck on dollar scratch-offs. And this one particular time, I opened up the door of my pickup truck and got in it, and the silver filaments were up to my knees.
No. What?
Yeah. And that's what made him recognize he had a problem. Meaning, when they were at his ankles, not a problem. When they're at his shins, not enough to have a problem. When he were up to his knees and falling out of the car, that's what made him realize he had a problem. So that's the first time I was willing to accept the fact that I was a compulsive gambler. But then, because my ego was still in full effect, when I got home from the rehab center, I was kind of estranged from my family. I was living separately from them. They were living in the city. I was living at a house in New Jersey. I wanted to prove to myself that I could stop if I wanted to stop and I could handle it on my own, which was pure ego. So I had $60,000 cash left to my name, no money in the bank. That's it. That's all I had to my name. So I took the 60 grand to a casino. I left 30 grand in the car on purpose. I went in with the other 30 and I made a deal with myself that if I lose the 30 grand in the casino, I'm not going to go to my car to get the other 30. I had to test myself and prove that I could do this on my own. And a hand came up which required me mathematically to like split cards and double down, because I convinced myself it's a mathematical game. You have to play with discipline and you can only play one way. And that served me very well over 18 months. So I ran out to my car, got the 30 grand, spent another hour or so in the casino and lost all of it. And that's the last day I've ever made a wager of any kind, because I proved to myself, and I know this is kind of cliche from 12-step rooms and meetings, but I was legitimately powerless over the addiction. And that's the last wager I ever made.
You know, Craig, I don't find that to be a cliche. To me, it's no more cliche than like, do unto others. It's rules that we live by. And as you know, it's a very, very, my family, well, I could just say it, my husband went through a similar situation, only not with gambling, with drugs.
Right.
And he will say to me to this day, one day at a time, or, and he doesn't go to meetings anymore, but some people do. Some people need that. But he says to me, those things I will always say. I will always use them. And he's taught my kids the 12 steps too. Just got to ask you
my
this.
issue with that particular one is I had to fix this. No one else was going to fix it for me.
Of course.
I had to acknowledge that I was out of control. So it lends itself to that. But there's not a therapist in the world that was going to make me stop gambling. There wasn't a self-help program that was going to make me stop. And for me, and look, I'm in a really good place. It's been 7 years since I've gambled. So I feel like I have it conquered. I'm sure like Mark does with drugs. Like I know I'm not going to gamble today. I don't have the desire, the pull. And I'm well aware that if you gave me $500, I'd have to bet it all in the first hand. Like I know that.
Right.
But the last question for me that I haven't answered, and I don't know that I ever will, is I don't know why I stopped. I had every reason to stop for 2 full years before I did. I had everything that I was willing to sacrifice, that I was going to lose and did lose, a family that loves me. And despite all of it, I didn't stop. And I still to this day don't know why I stopped, because when I stopped outside of that last trip after rehab, I didn't do it ever again and haven't. And I don't know why.
And just to clarify, not going to meetings, not with a therapist, just on your own?
I went to GA. It was hard for me to go to GA, to go back to Judy's question about celebrity. The A is anonymous. It was impossible for me to enjoy that.
Right.
I mean, I had people literally ask for my autographs in GA meetings, or people acknowledge who I was, before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting. So I did what a lot of people do. I shopped around until I found a GA room that I felt comfortable in. I went to that room every single Sunday, I'd say for about 9 months in between the trial and me going away. And I remember there was a guy there in his late 60s who was celebrating, I think it was 35 years of, we call it recovery in the gambling world. And I said to him, man, you got 35 years, like you got this beat. Why do you come here? Like spend time with your grandkids. It's Sunday morning. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And he goes, the reason I made it 35 years is because I come here every Sunday. And that hit me, because I hated the rooms. I hated the meetings. And when I went to prison, I participated in a similar type of therapy group called RDAP, which is really meant for drugs and alcohol, but similar concepts. And I just made a promise to myself, and one of the many lonely nights when you're looking at the mattress 6 inches in front of your face, laying in your bunk, that I was either not going to live at all, or I'm going to do the best to live the best version of my life when I get out and right the wrongs and become a better role model and dad and husband and all those things that come along with it. And that's what I've decided to do.
Do entertainers have a special proclivity to addiction? Do we have a special insecurity?
I think we're all by nature insecure at some level. which is why we act out. I've always had a great fondness specifically for Robin Williams. And I think I can understand what he went through when he took his own life. And I can relate to a lot of the feelings he probably had, although he, of course, was a much bigger star than I ever was. But I get it. Like most people don't get it. I get it completely. And that's why, I contemplated taking my own life at the throes of all the nonsense that was going on. Like, I get it. It makes complete sense to me.
Craig,
what he did.
Can I ask you a question about, I'm making up that through recovery, you've gotten in touch with some feelings and have a different way of going about your life than obviously you had before. And I'm thinking about that child who made the drawing of the casino.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how old he is now. And I'm wondering what are the kind of talks you have with your kids around your recovery and the addiction. And what's family life
he's,
like now?
He's 14 now, probably the smartest of my 4 kids, and he's a rock star.
He's amazing.
And I would say that, my wife and I were estranged before I went to prison. And the job she did as a mom, A, never bad-mouthing me to our kids, never poisoning the well, and B, making sure that they never went without and lived as quote-unquote normal a childhood as they could, knowing that they had to deal with the reality that their Superman dad messed up and they had to deal with the repercussions of that more than I did.
Right.
I got arrested 2 days before my daughter's 16th birthday. I wasn't there when my son graduated high school. So I went from being Superman to, and I always said this, Superman forgot how to fly. And my kids and my wife, what she did that kept our family straight. Like, my kids never wavered, didn't act out, didn't go into bad things. And when I came back and started to re-earn that trust with them, and I think part of what they've seen me do is now use my story to pay it forward. And I counsel a lot of people with gambling problems every day of the week. And my kids see that. And I think they've gone from certainly angry with me and upset about, me taking myself away from them and not being there for them for the period of time I was gone. I think they look at me now and they're proud of me because I didn't just roll up and call it a day. I fought back, made the most of my second opportunities career-wise, the 8th opportunity, my wife gave me to resume our marriage and keep our family together. But she really deserves the credit. I just had to put the work in. And I made her a million promises when I got out of prison that I would do A, B, C, D, and E. And if I had faltered on any one of those, we'd be having a much different conversation. But she kept it all together.
She's a very, very strong, special person. So I have to ask you this, Craig. Do you ever get triggered by any environments now, working in the field that you do?
No, I don't know why I stopped. I'm not sure why I've been so fortunate and blessed that I don't feel the pull to gamble. I'm surrounded by sports gambling ads and casino ads. It's part of what I do. I can't make them go away. But as long as I'm honest with myself, I think that gets me through every day.
You know what I'm hearing? The loss that it's making me nervous, actually, is like there was no serenity. You lost all peace. I mean, I know while you were gambling, you said you felt safe in the moment, but your life was being controlled by this outside thing that was just way bigger than you. And
what's worse is I'm the one that let that outside thing in. Thank God, like, I didn't get cancer, right? Not my fault. Some people would sadly get it. Pick, disease, whatever it is. I actively opened the door to this world and then let it come in and take over my life. And that's messed up and really sad. And if you get a do-over, that's the do-over I would want.
So it's a really different world today with like gambling being legal and cell phones. And like, what do you tell the people you talk to today, the people you mentor? What do you tell parents about kids? What do you tell kids themselves?
Well, it's a little convoluted answer because there's so many different aspects to it. So I'll start with what I'm noticing now amongst a lot of high school boys specifically. And that is fathers are looking for a way to bond with their sons. Girls are involved as well, but not at the same level at the high school level as men and young boys are. And what's happening now is I'm getting a lot of calls from high schools to speak and to counsel kids who now have legitimate full-blown gambling problems. And what's happening is that dad and son are both sports fans, right? So, hey, let's put $100 on the Jets game this week. So the father, everything with the right intentions, opens up an account on one of the legal online sports books, right? And the father and son sit there and they watch the Jet game and they win $100, they lose $100. Not a big deal, the money, but now they're bonding. They have this great shared experience, right?
Yep.
The dad on Monday goes to work. The kid now has full access to a gambling account. So the kid's like, well, my dad does it with me. He's not going to mind if I put $50 on the Knick game tonight. He may not even tell me. When the kid loses the bet, he never pays it because it's on the dad's credit card or bank account. So we're creating a generation of kids who have no idea what it's like to lose and certainly no idea what it's like to lose their money. So that's an immediate problem. Now we're seeing kids that are being preyed upon on Twitter and Instagram and these other social media platforms from people claiming to be above board legal bookies who will guarantee them X amount of dollars of credit. Just, share your Venmo with me so I know who you are.
You're kidding me.
Nope. The kid invariably.
How do you know this, though?
Because these are people that I'm talking to and helping. And they come to me, the parents come to me panicked because, little Billy's got a gambling problem and they were totally unaware of it. Well, you started it. You opened up the account in the first place, or you exposed the kid to it.
So what signs can either a parent or just a loved one look for so that they can identify a gambling addiction in somebody?
The first thing that happens, no matter what the age, is you start socializing differently. You go from outgoing and happy and you want to see your friends and spend time with them like normal, quote unquote, kids do. And then all of a sudden you see people, not just kids, adults also, start withdrawing or spending an inordinate amount of time in the bathroom with their phones. You can't have diarrhea at every party you go to, right? And you're not 13 anymore, so you're not doing that either. And,
the phone made you bad too, right, Craig? The phone made you worse?
So the phone was a lifeline to gamble 24/7. Yeah. So like we were on a vacation in Italy and, I was playing blackjack on my phone at a villa in Italy. Like it's crazy. If I didn't have the phone, I'm sure I would have tried to find some other avenue to do it, but it was just easy because it was in my back pocket. And that was on an illegal black market site, so.
And today it's legal.
Okay,
it's
so
legal,
they
but even if it
theirs?
wasn't, you could find a way to do it. There are kids that are gambling on black market sites right now as we speak.
So there's the change in behavior, like a lot of addictions.
Yep.
You see patterns change, the social, what else?
Well, that's the first biggest thing. And then if a kid is reacting, or I guess overreacting to the outcome of an event, and it's beyond just fandom. Like, the Jets lost again. All right, well, that happens, right? But if it's like, if you start hearing, I can't believe they lost by 12, or the kid is overreacting to what should just be another sports weekend or event. Yeah. Or they have a sudden interest in a game that they have no idea who's playing in it. Like,
so, Corie, would you have ever have thought of this?
No.
Like if all of a sudden you're like, I can't believe San Diego State lost that volleyball game last night. I can guarantee you got a gambling problem. I once wagered on a Tijuana dog race at 3:00 in the morning. And I can tell you, as I stand here today, I couldn't tell you that the dogs even existed.
I can't believe it. I hate to laugh at it because it's so serious, but yeah. Craig, I feel like we could both talk to you for like hours. And so many people listening to us, I know, have gotten so much out of this. And one of the things I told Corie before we brought you on is that do not worry. He is going to be so open and he's not going to shut up. It's one of the best. You're one of the best former addicts because you can do so much to help people because you are so open. So thank you for everything you do to help people. And thank you for this. I know you didn't want to do it, but I know that you've helped people.
To be honest, I did it for Corie.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that.
The reality is that you never make it whole. There's no such thing as, there are relationships I lost in life that I will never get back. And that does, hurt me because there are people that were part of my life for a very, very long time who just were like, nah, no more. And I respect that. So you can do the best you can, but you do live the rest of your life with some level of regret and hurt because you know your actions hurt other people. Whether you meant to or not, doesn't matter. The reality is that you did. So I will live the rest of my life knowing that there are people that I will never speak to again, and they have every right not to talk to me. No matter what I do the rest of my life, I could cure cancer, and they're not going to view me the way they used to. And you just have to, at some point, be okay with that at some level. And I think I'm at that stage where I respect that. It's hurtful, but I also understand it. And that's how I live.
And that's the way you got to live.
Yeah. There's no other choice. It's either you got to live. I want to live. Like I want to wake up tomorrow, and I know I'm imperfect, and I'm reminded every day on social media of what an asshole I was, pardon me, and all the things I did. I'm reminded every day that I'm a convicted felon, and it just doesn't bother me anymore because I'm at peace with who I am. I'm upset about the choices I made and what I did, not because of how it hurt me, because of how it hurt people around me. But, you know, the barbs now just bounce off me, and there was a point where they bothered me. But you can't fight everybody.
You're human.
If I had to say what I'm getting from you in this talk, Craig, is that it seems to me that you're trying at least to live by your values. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. Like, you know, you're trying
Craig was always a good guy. That's why we couldn't believe this. We're like, no, this only happens to like sleazy, disgusting people. Like, how could this happen to our friend, you know?
Yeah, well, I did it. And that's the part too that I'll never understand, because I walked away from who I thought I was deep down inside.
Right.
And when you do the things I did, you can't tell people, no, trust me, I'm a good guy. Right. No, you're not, because you weren't acting like one.
Addiction makes you behave in ways that go against your values and deeply who you are. And
the last thing I'll say about gambling addiction to you guys, and it's my own little personal crusade, and I know I can't win it, but I'm going to fight for it anyway, is gambling is a legitimate addiction. It's in all the textbooks. You can't argue that it's not. It is.
Of course.
But of the big three, alcohol, drugs, and gambling, an alcoholic is known as an alcoholic. A drug addict is known as a drug addict. But my people are known as degenerates. And I don't know why that is. I try to fight that all the time. Why can't I just be a compulsive gambler? Why do I have to have that adjective in front of it?
Why is that adjective? Oh, it's always right before gambler.
Yep.
And I mean, not that I think that it's a good addiction to have, but it's one of the cleaner ones, actually.
Well,
so why are you a degenerate? You know,
right? And the other part of gambling addiction, the suicide rate is more than double that of drug addicts and alcoholics, and 2 or 3, whatever it is, it's a silent addiction. In that, if I line 10 addicts up against the wall, good chance we could all pick out the drug addict. Good chance we could figure out which one is drunk, but you have no idea that I'm gambling. No urine test for it, no blood test, your breath doesn't change, you're not impaired. So it's very easy for us to hide in plain sight and literally go to our graves without anyone ever knowing.
One more thing before we go, and of course, I mean, there's just so many things. I will never forget that I was once sitting with your wife when we were away together, and it was like we were talking at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I said, oh, where's Craig, you know? And she said, downstairs gambling. And I wonder now, did she know that was weird?
No. Yes. Yeah, no, she hates gambling, never liked it, never wanted to go to a casino, went begrudgingly.
That I know, but did she know that that was a problem, or did she just think you're famous, you want to be alone?
No, it was never that. She thought it was weird and wrong. But if she fell asleep, she couldn't stop me. She's sleeping.
Right.
Like I spent a lot of time in casinos from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m, only because I knew full well that she was sleeping, so she wouldn't be the wiser.
Corie, you're going to meet his wife. You can't even believe what kind of a person she is. Anyway,
I would
Craig,
love to meet her. She sounds amazing.
She's amazing.
And strong, yeah.
Never met anybody. I always say this with the 2 couples that are friends, Mark and me and Craig and his wife. Craig and I both got the really, really good part of the bargain. And you know that, Craig.
Yes.
I got the good one. He got the good one. Now, I want to thank you very, very much for being here, for looking down into the screen sometimes. That was really sweet of you.
Well, I mean, there's traffic. There's coyotes out here. Yeah.
And most of all, for coming over for the last Shabbos dinner you'll ever be invited to. So I really appreciate it.
Well, we'll see about that. I want to see what's on Corey's menu first.
Yeah, exactly. He's opened up some new avenues.
Do you want to tell us where
we can hear you, Craig?
It's a podcast, The Craig Carton Show. It's very unique. Yeah, so it's every day. It's live. I don't know, from 11 to 12. It's on YouTube at 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Spotify. It's all over the place. And you can see it or you can just wait for the clips to come out. The clips are pretty good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, by the way. This is not the last we'll hear from Craig Carton. We're going to have him back again. Craig, thank you so much. I love you for being here. Really.
Pleasure. Pleasure. And happy to share my story with your audience.
Nice to talk to you, Craig.
Okay.
Judi, we forgot to do fish LB.
Oh my gosh. Wait, remind everybody what
now.
it is. Remind people what it is. Do we have
That's
to?
an Arabic phrase that means to get things off your chest. And we're both big believers that when you say what's on your mind, when you get things off your chest, we're healthier for it.
Absolutely. So what's on your mind?
Well,
Cora?
I was just going to say, I don't know why I'm the one who brought up fish LB because I actually don't have a fish LB today.
Okay.
But I have reasons for why, because I was thinking about this. I was like, why don't I have a fish LB today? And I think it's because I had dinner with a friend this week. I had coffee with another friend today. And I saw you and your husband last night at an event in the city.
Fun.
It was so much fun. And I'm going to tie this full circle back to us and this podcast and what we're trying to do here. And I think being connected, feeling connected, and nurturing friendships is really important. And so I think I'm feeling good. And I don't have anything to fish LB today.
I have a few things to fish LB because I always have to. The first thing is, I didn't mean to be this blonde. And it's like really bothering me.
Oh,
because
you really wanted to talk about something very deeply important. I see.
First, I want to make fun of Craig, but now I got to make fun of Craig. But I also want to tell you, it's bothering me that I didn't mean to be this blonde. But
I didn't notice.
And a woman and her hair, if you feel like your hair looks great, then you look great. So I need to fish LB this. I'm very jealous of your hair. The cut, I love it.
Thank you.
But next time probably,
yes,
I will not be this blonde. So I got to fish LB about this very important thing. And also, let me just add this. The big timing that Craig Carton just did.
Yeah.
It is so him. Now he's going to say, oh, I have to get my walk or whatever. But here's what I really think. He is so shy. And I know this because I'm shy. He will just have a hard time sitting and looking me in the eye. And especially, I think, now he could tell me I'm wrong when he watches this, if he ever watches this.
Well, doesn't he? He has his own podcast.
He does.
Probably sits.
He does. And he looks, but when he looks at his partner in the eye, he knows him for millions of years. He's an old friend of ours. He doesn't know you. He's a little shy with me. And I really believe I'm going to give Craig the benefit of the doubt that he's not just too cool to look at us and sit down at a computer and talk to us and just say, he's shy. He didn't want to look us in the eye.
No. I really get the walking thing. I'm a walker.
But I can't walk and talk and concentrate. He did a really good job at that, So
I actually, when I'm talking to friends and I'm walking, that's a good combination. It's a good combination for fish LB, by the way.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's easier for him to let it out like that. So I'm giving him a pass. He's so funny and so endearing. So it was great to have him.
He is.
And that, as we say, is our truth. That's why we always say it here.
Say it here.
And until next time, skip perfection.
Choose connection.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a rating and a 5-star review. It really helps other people find the show. If you want to connect with us more, find us at Say It Here Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Say It Here is sponsored by Safe Parenting. The show is hosted and executive produced by us, Judi Franco and Corie Adjmi. Production and editing support is done by the team at Resonate Recordings. We'll see you in the next episode.